Hey, Rob. Right on
Hi,
time.
Fran. Everybody.
All right, Matt, I don't think we're expecting anybody else, right? Okay. Once everyone catches their breath, let's call this meeting to order. Let's see, we have one additional agenda item that wasn't on the written agenda. It is to discuss potential borough purchase of used skateboarding equipment, right, Michelle? No?
Not purchase, but yeah. We can
acquire. All right.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it more later. I don't know. Michelle will be handling that. So.
Yeah.
All right. So first time of business to approve the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from December? Any comments? All right. I will pass those along to Matt to post. Next item is the Public Works update.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ed Harmon. We had snow operations in effect this morning, which we didn't have to do much. The forecast changed significantly overnight and the storm broke up. We're watching temperatures above freezing, and they're supposed to stay well above freezing tonight into tomorrow. So we should be okay for any refreezing. We do have a couple staff members, Public Works staff members, coming in early tomorrow just to double check some of the shadier spots north and south. Prior to that, we were doing some tree pruning as we cleaned up the downtown holiday decorations. We were able to sneak in some tree pruning, light bulb exchanges, things of that nature. That's kept us busy over the last couple of weeks. And of course, spring preparations, talking about what items we need to order for the the parks and fields, as well as some plant material for the decorative containers downtown.
Great. So I know we've got some road closures coming up tomorrow, and I forget when else, but that's not the borough, right? That is who is doing the work on the roads right now?
It's actually going to be due to the 114 Forest Ave construction.
Okay.
Going to be a significant amount of supplies being delivered throughout the next couple of weeks, and the full closure on Windsor is due to a cement pumper. It's just from logistically speaking, they can't do it partial. Thankfully, silver lining is that that's going to be the last of the foundational work, so that should be the last of the significant concrete activity. The other periodic closings along Forest Ave, which we've worked with the developers team to negotiate one lane that will continue to be open along Forest Ave during these closures. That's due to significant lumber deliveries that will be beginning to happen over the next couple of weeks. And I believe all of the steel has been done on 114 Forest, and they will be beginning their framing work pretty soon.
All right. Any questions about that or for Ed? All right. Thank you, Ed. So we don't officially have a borough manager update, but Matt, do you have anything germane today?
I just wanted to thanks Fred. I just wanted to say that I've been talking to the borough's new traffic engineer, and my intention is to have him available during these meetings beginning in February. He couldn't make today. He had an appointment already scheduled today. Many of these things that we talk about in infrastructure have a traffic standpoint, and I have him queued up, ready to start attending in February to start talking about some of these things, and just in the interest of getting him up to speed and fully apprised of the ideas that we have in this committee. So looking forward to that next month. One of the things that he's planning on discussing at the infrastructure meeting is this Haverford Avenue parking plan. He and I have not seen the plan in much detail as of yet. He and I are going to be talking about that in the next couple of weeks. And I explained to him this the committee's request for bike ped facilities to be integrated into that temporary parking plan as well. So he's aware of that. So I'm hoping that his presentation will be updated to show some increased ped and bike facilities along that spot, which we're talking about from around Citizens Bank all the way down to just north of Conway Avenue, or look at it north, just before Conway Ave. And this is in an attempt to alleviate some of the perceived parking woes that will be experienced downtown with the future development. This is a way for us to maximize our existing infrastructure, to incorporate some parking while those projects are underway. So just say that to whet your appetite for the next meeting next month.
Okay. And do you envision him attending regularly? Yeah, not just next month?
Yes, that's my intention. Now, granted, sometimes, there might not be anything on the agenda that is traffic related, but if you look at the past agendas, most agendas have something that's traffic related. So it's a good time for him outside of today. And so he has it on his calendar going forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Matt. So, Michelle, why don't you tell us about the the skateboard equipment that you
We're
wanted
here
to
already?
talk about?
Okay.
Well, I just don't know if that's counted as a potential action item or if that's
No,
a
no,
information
not at
item.
all.
I
Not
don't
at
know
all.
what's up about it. So just
It's really an information item. I
Okay.
don't expect us to do anything about it today. This is more along the lines of me sort of mainly wanting to make Matt and Ed aware that I think this is something that's going to be brought up at least through the recreation board. And so I think we should just start giving it some thought. It'll ultimately potentially end up going to council, but a lot of that depends on, let me just tell you what it is. So somebody has found a cache of skateboarding equipment that's used that the person who has it doesn't want because they've got some other facility and it's sort of just been sitting there unused for a while. They've got it's on a commercial facility in Conshohocken, I think. So the long and short of it is, I don't know anything about the condition of this equipment. I've seen somebody took pictures and sent them to me. I'm obviously no ways competent to evaluate skateboarding equipment, but I think that I'm not pro skateboard. I'm not anti skateboard. I'm just completely neutral. I'm pro borough and, providing residents with and all groups of residents with recreational activity if we can do it and if there's an appetite for it and if it's feasible. So I bring this up to let you know, to think, well, okay, and I think this will be brought up again by other organizations and groups. If there's an appetite to acquire this, and place it and make it available, I think there are a lot of boxes that would need to be checked. Be a lot of things that would need to be done first. I thought it might make sense as an initial matter to just get some thoughts on what those might be. I think obviously inspecting the equipment, moving it, placing it, figuring out where to place it, how it will be accessible. Some suggestions that have been made, two obvious ones were at Sabine Avenue or alternately on the tennis courts, which seems more logical since there's already a fence there. There's a whole lot of things that would need to be talked about. But I think maybe, Ed, since you're here, I would first ask you, what, as the public works director, what's your general impression of an idea like that? If the borough were to decide it would even consider adopting used equipment of this sort, what would be the first thing that would have to be done before you would say, okay, this is safe enough to be put into use? Maybe we'll start there, although you could start almost anywhere with this. But I'd just like to get a little discussion going. So I'm going to open it up to Ed and Matt specifically, because I kind of want to get your gut on it first before we even get into any details.
Well, I guess my first impression would be the inspection portion that you mentioned of the equipment, its value, durability. As anyone knows, skateboarding is kind of invasive with the use of the equipment that they have. Even though we're only talking skateboards, they can quickly wear down and wear out equipment, and then that becomes a safety issue, which then turns into insurance issues. So that would be my first subjective point, is to try to get that answered. Secondly, the different sites that you mentioned do have limitations as far as their usage and neighborhood awareness. So that would be another obstacle to begin to overcome before we take this step.
So I'm generally,
Yes, totally agree. Thank you. Oh, Matt, good.
yeah, I'm generally receptive to new ideas. I think new ideas are great. I can't speak intelligently about pros, cons, neutral reactions without knowing what the universe is. I'm generally open to the idea. I think it should be explored, but I can't give any concrete feedback without knowing what the universe of materials it is. Are we talking about a half pipe? Are we talking about, what are the things that we're talking about? So I like the idea. I think there's value in exploring the idea, and especially if it goes through the rec board and they're on board and it's checking their boxes, then yeah, we'll certainly do our best to facilitate that. To your point, Michelle, there are a lot of boxes to be checked, for which I'm just not going to go and say yes, no, maybe so without seeing what are we talking about? Are we talking about a complete skate park? Are we talking about a couple of pieces of apparatus, or what? So
It looked like a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Probably there isn't even room for all of it. I guess no, of course, nobody can give any definitive answer. I guess my question would be, if we were advising somebody, say from the rec board or other community groups and interests who would like to see this happen, what should their first step be to get the equipment inspected? Is that something you would ask them to do, somebody else to do by hiring someone to inspect it, or is that something we would do internally?
Well,
And who do you hire to inspect skateboard equipment? And who does who's competent to say, yeah, this is good, this isn't good, right? Like,
there
kind
are
of person?
I believe there are professional skateboarders and consultants who will do that sort of thing. I know where I live in Lansdale, we just opened up a brand new, spanking new skate park, and it was about 5, 6, maybe even 7 years worth of talking and designing about it. And through that process, there are professional firms that are looking at just skateboard stuff, and they're the ones that you would want to ask, consult with, to see whether or not it's feasible, whether the location will work. There's going to be the location issue. Where is that location? How much of that space will be made available? How much can we dedicate? And then there's the other side, the legal part of it, or I should say the insurance part of it. What is that going to do to our insurance? What types of insurance will we need? I know it's a different kind of activity that I don't believe is covered under our current policy. So, all these different boxes to explore. And I say that, talk about Lansdale, and that I say all of that as an encouraging sort of way that, yeah, municipalities do this, and there are ways for us to do it. And if, rec board and this committee believe that it's a priority, then, staff will support that.
So rec board had asked last year to come in and talk about just general purchasing, stuff they felt was should be budgeted for in the parks. I had suggested a March meeting, that they come to our March meeting. I don't know if they're gonna have time to discuss this as well, and talk to us about it in March. But I think they're an important partner in this, and I'm like to hear what they have to say. So
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Just to let you know, this equipment was basically free if you can come get it. So, but I think that, of course, as with everything, there are always going to be a lot of costs, regardless. And so maybe good advice to give the rec board to think about before they bring this proposal forward, if they are going to do it, would be that they would thank you for that information, Matt. They would find a professional who's going to inspect that and get a price to do that inspection and information, and then discuss who would be funding it. It may be the NAA. I don't know, but I guess when an idea like this comes up, and I know everyone's going to go, yeah, that'd be great if it would work, but I don't know. I look at it. Okay, all right. Well, then what's the first step on the path that you can give somebody who's interested in moving this forward? I feel like what I just heard may have been find somebody competent to do this inspection
Right.
at a minimum. And then, of course, there are all these other boxes to check. But if the equipment's no good, you can pretty much forget about it. Unless there's another early kill point, like there's nowhere here that the community would accept placing it, because that would be free to find that out. So maybe that's the first step.
But
Well, Michelle, yeah, I was thinking that if we could get the dimensions of like the minimum amount of, square feet, that would make this a viable skate park. And then we could see what the rec board would recommend.
I mean, they already do temporary installations both at Sabine and on the tennis courts. So presumably, even if we just scale it down, some of these things could be installed there. I mean, like I said, they're already in there from time to time. So I think it's a reasonable suggestion. Okay, so if we're going to ask them to inspect it, we authorize them to bill the borough for an inspection. We ask the NAA to do an inspection. I mean, Parks and Rec Board does not have its own pot of money, right? They're working through council. So
I would say suggest that Parks and the Rec Board, if that's, or I guess now we're calling Parks and Rec. I keep forgetting.
sorry.
Parks and Rec investigate what an inspection would cost. That would be useful information to have, and put together a plan for the best what they advise is the best location, and which stakeholder groups we'd need to get input from in order to do something like that. Right.
Okay, so they come to, yeah. I mean, I think it'll be easier for them to find an inspector than to try to work on, well, where's this going to go? How's it, all the logistics. So I think this might be a multi-step process here. As you've identified, step one, find the inspector, bring it to the borough, and then we'll go from there. Does that sound?
Yeah, and there will be costs associated, even if it's free equipment, and we're looking at installing it in a new location. There will be installation costs, so it'd be good to have, estimates of what that would mean, what other costs would need to be done, and especially with a heavy use such as a skate park, maintenance. That's going to be the lion's share of the continued cost for installing such equipment. And if we're talking about primarily wood skateboarding equipment deteriorates significantly faster than, say, concrete. And typically, you've got the two different types of concrete poured in place versus wood-based infrastructure. So again, I just think we need to know more. I think the more details that can be provided would be better. It would help me from a budgeting standpoint, get my head around it, see what the continued costs would be. It would help Ed and I talk about Parks and Rec, maintenance costs going forward, and so forth. So just don't want to be saddled with a white elephant gift.
So maybe what we could do is
I'm looking at these pictures, and is there such a thing as metal? Because this looks like it's steel to me. That's what it looks like to me.
So has somebody from Rec Board been out there and looked at?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've got. They're on my phone. I can't really share. It's not. We don't need that level of detail. It's a lot of stuff, and it honestly looks like metal. It looks like it's made out of sheet metal. Is that even possible? I know nothing about this. I would suggest that they start by finding someone who's professionally competent to evaluate it and give recommendations for the cost to transport it, install it, and maintain it. And then we can even have an intelligent discussion of whether it's something we could consider. Does that?
Sounds great.
I think that's good too, and just to plant the seed that we'll need to, if this does looks like it's going to continue, we need to then develop a usage policy. Also, I know skateboarding facilities typically have a standalone usage policy that gets adopted that defines what can and cannot be hours of operation and those sorts of things too. So don't have to talk about that now, but just planting the seed going forward. If this, if we continue, that we'll have to also think that through.
Yeah, we have gotten sort of requests for skating facilities on a fairly regular basis, just kind of low level interest. So there is interest out there, we know, and these events are being run. So this is not sort of coming out of nowhere for anybody who's not of
Hmm.
skateboarding age out there who's watching this. So okay, let's do more investigation. Sounds great.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, stormwater ordinance updates.
Yeah, I was going
So,
to
okay.
Eric on that one. Thanks, Eric.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so where that stands now is in the hands of John Walco, who is currently looking over the ordinances to make those changes that borough is seeking. He's also simultaneously looking at that because there will be some administrative type upgrades needed for the stormwater ordinance with regard to MS4 requirements. So basically, the state has a 2022 model stormwater ordinance that is basically just the next variant of the previous model ordinances that have been adopted. So we had gone through and did a comparison of the existing ordinance to the model ordinance, and we found there's just a few really housekeeping type items. So John is also looking at that, but it is in progress and is being worked on by John at the moment.
Are any of those changes the things that people are going to notice if they are interacting with the borough or dealing? Are people going to notice?
Most of them, but no, they're not really. They have to do more with some definitions and some. It's really administrative type information, but it's not going to. The changes of the impervious area and triggering a permit is something that most people will notice. The other changes are really much more in depth and are not something most people will notice.
Okay. Rob?
Eric, I wanted to ask, while we're doing this, and you and John, are there other ways that the ordinance can be more aggressive in the sense of, environmental protection? Besides, we've agreed to this threshold, but are there other places in the ordinance that we should be paying attention to?
Make it more. Well, so the way your ordinance, has environmental protections is in the requiring of infiltration, which then regenerates, brings water into the ground. Rate reduction, which means you're slowing down water from leaving a site quickly, and slowly dissipating into the streams, and then that ends up protecting your stream bank, the stream bank standards by reducing the velocity of water in the stream and overtaxing your storm sewers. There are other. I mean, the only thing that you would do beyond that is potential. I guess right now there's a requirement at that 2,000 square feet for people have to do stormwater. We're reducing that so it's going to catch more. Beyond that, you could add language that encourages people to voluntarily do stormwater improvements. But really, even then, it'd just be a guidance of here's some information. And I think even the Lower Marion Conservancy seems to already kind of run a program like that I see advertising. Encouraging people to put in rain barrels and put in rain gardens. So, is there a legislative anything else? I'm not sure. Outside of just encouraging more people to use it voluntarily.
Okay, thanks. I was just curious how ours compares to other municipalities.
Right.
If someone's ahead of us,
No, your ordinance is basically in line with the model for the region.
All right. And do we still expect this to come up at the next business meeting? The changes, or?
I suspect it may not be the next meeting, being that John is still working on it. I could be wrong, but I last I spoke to him, he was still working on, making the amendments and going through the ordinance.
All right. So either February or March, most likely. Any other comments about this? All right. Thanks, Eric. So we had the Wheels on Windsor, the report from DVRPC. Everybody get a chance to look at that?
Mhm.
So they were asking for feedback from us before they sort of finalized this. I know, Matt, they had some questions about the implementation on the borough's end, just the nuts and bolts of getting it into place. Well, not quite nuts and bolts, the paint and paint and signage of getting it into place.
Yeah, the costs associated with the deployment. Yep.
I guess, do we have any discussion of that report? I think I'm hoping that once they finalize it, we can put it up on our website. Anybody have any comments on that report?
Hey, Fred, I think you and I had talked about if the committee, exploring whether or not the committee wanted them to present the final report, or if it was just okay for us to just post the final report. I didn't know if the committee wanted to go have them, have Betsy from DVRPC attend and give a presentation on the final report, or if the committee just thought that it was okay to just post it on the website.
I mean, on the one hand, I think it might give us some momentum for, the next project. Just keep it on everybody's minds and, show what, remind everybody what we did and, what we could do next. But I mean, the question is, do we want to take up more of, do we want to ask her to do a presentation? What do y'all think?
I would ask. I mean, not pressure, but if she's willing, she seems pretty enthusiastic about this project. I think they're as happy to have the opportunity to use our streets, as a experiment ground, as a lab, as we are, to cooperate. I think it would be helpful just because it sort of forces us all to pay attention at the same time and listen and then ask questions and sort of focuses everybody's minds on it. So if she'll do it, I think it would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. And then it would be recorded, everyone can see it.
Okay. I will, I'll let her know that we, talked over the report and we'd like her to present if she can. I guess it doesn't, I'm trying to think of which meeting. I mean, it would be appropriate for the workshop meeting, I think, since it wouldn't be there wouldn't be any immediate action attached to it.
Oh, I was thinking that she could come and present to infrastructure. I didn't realize you meant a council meeting. So,
Well, either way. I mean, what do you think? Do you think infrastructure, or do you think a full council meeting? I mean, we've all been in touch and we've been following this more closely, I think, than some of the other council members. So I don't know.
I would ask Aaron if he's willing to put it, if we can put it on a workshop agenda some month when we don't have another presentation, because it doesn't have to be now. I think it'd be great because more of the public attends, and then more council members have an opportunity to really think about it and ask questions. And I like that idea.
All right. Well, good point that I should definitely clear up with Aaron before I ask her to before I ask Betsy to present. Okay. So I will check with Aaron. And then, I think we all like the idea of trying to do another pop-up later this spring, right? The infrastructure committee, everybody is kind of on board conceptually with this, trying to run another pilot and or trying to run another pilot later this spring. If so, I'll get in touch with the cycling club and see when they think, and start working on it with Matt and trying to come up with a proposal.
Fred, would that be for the whole length of Windsor, the next pilot?
Well, I mean, option number one is more of Windsor. Option number two is alongside this temporary, alongside Haverford, doing the stretch of Haverford from the tunnel to forget whether it was to Essex,
Essex. Yeah.
the tunnel to Essex or the tunnel to wherever we think we can make it work. Those are the two most logical spots, I think, that we've discussed. And so I think, presentation from Betsy ought to keep it on everybody's minds, and then we can try to come up with another project once the weather gets better. Once we're not worried about wintry mixes and salting the ground and whatnot. This is not very inspiring bicycling weather right now, but okay. So I guess right now I'll talk to Aaron and then talk to Betsy about presenting that report. Final item on our agenda is procedures for traffic requests. So Matt, where are we on?
Yeah, thanks, Fred. I just wanted to have this as a recurring topic on the agenda since it's been coming up the past couple of months. I don't have anything specific to report aside from that I have begun the conversations with our traffic engineer, planted the seed with him about exploring what other municipalities do to help us establish some sort of criteria for requesting different traffic signs. So he's thinking about it, and that's another thing that he and I are going to coordinate on before the next meeting. And I'm hoping that doesn't take as long as we anticipate. So just wanted to keep that on the agenda. That's the update there. We're moving forward. I had that first initial conversation. Hopefully we'll have a criteria in the next month or two.
Okay, and then once the criteria are in place, we will definitely be willing to listen to requests from citizens for traffic signs. That's the whole point. Okay. Anybody have anything else they want to bring up at the meeting?
Just a follow up.
Or go to public comment? Okay.
A quick follow up on our skateboarding. Matt, just to make sure action item. Fred, do you want to maybe reach out to the rec board and sort of summarize our discussion and what we're looking for? Or do you want me to do that? I just want to make sure somebody
who reached out to you? Or who? Okay.
It's come from different directions. So I just think
okay, I'll reach out to the rec board, yeah.
Going through the rec board is probably the right way. Or Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec. It's like one of my favorite TV shows. I don't know why I care. Going through Parks and Rec is probably the best way to do this. I think that's the appropriate board. And so, yeah, if you want to reach out to them, awesome. Great.
Yeah, because I already need to nail down. They asked for a meeting, like I said, so I need to.
Yeah, okay. Well, you can just summarize and maybe refer them to this recording if they want the gates.
If I could just request that Ed Harmon be looped in on any of those communications also, just so from a staff standpoint, see where things are at. I would appreciate that.
Okay. Will do. And then, yeah, Michelle, if you can just send me what you have, maybe send all of us what you've got. That would be helpful.
Okay.
Rob, did you have something?
Well, I wasn't, it's not on our agenda, but I just have been thinking about the 201 Sabine conversation that we've been having as a council. And I don't know if our committee needs to do anything more in terms of, that economic question that came up at our last meeting. What are the numbers in terms of our liabilities? Is that something that we can just handle in the full council? We don't need to bring that up here.
I believe that's gonna be continue to be brought up at full council. That's my understanding.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, at this point, all the discussions of 217, I think, are full council matters, because everybody's, that's important. And there is no news at this point beyond what we talked about at the last meeting. We're still awaiting information.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's move on to public comment. Ira, do you have anything you want to add?
Nope, just watching. Thanks.
All right. Andy? Andy Hawkinson, do you have anything for public comment? All right. Hearing no public comment, I think we will adjourn at 1:35. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Fred.